Set aside your worries, it's okay now. The sun is here to stay. Blue skies, feel the wind beneath you as you fly by. Dancing on a cloud, it lifts you high, high, high. Your troubles blow away. Oh, yeah.
All right, all right. Welcome, everybody. It is time for another episode, another episode of Two Pastors, Their Guests, Keeping It Real. Now, we have only one pastor in front of you because, you know, Charles is on his way in. He had a little bit of a technical thing, so he had to restart his system, you know, as we're trying to still play with Zoom and trying to keep our social distancing thing. And but Two Pastors, Their Guests, Keeping It Real. We are going to have an amazing, amazing show. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. We got an amazing guest. So our guest is very special. So he's a pastor in his own right, so he's helping us to fill our quota right now while Charles isn't here. But this is Charles Williams, y'all. He is the founder of what you guys have heard is something called the AMBERAlert. I know y'all have heard of the AMBERAlert. I know you guys, if you know the show's charity of saving lost kids, I know you know what the AMBERAlert is because we're constantly trying to do that thing to help children that go missing, exploited, and sex trafficking. But we're always posting these pictures that are out of either a kid that's missing or of an AMBERAlert. And we have got the man in the house with us tonight. So the guy that actually was the founder of it, he's also extremely connected in that world. He's still very, very active in social media, but he's just got like a heart that God showed me to have as a heart for children. And so I just want to introduce my friend, my brother, Charles Williams. How are you doing, my buddy?
I'm doing fine, Pastor Brian, and I am just terribly excited about being here with you all on this afternoon.
Well, I'm just super excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this for a while. It's not every day we get to talk about some of the stuff that's so near and dear to our hearts and about children that, you know, they go missing and something bad happens to them, but able to take that active role and actually do something about it rather than sitting back on your couch going, man, I wish that didn't happen. Taking that active role is so impressive and so important that we have to do. And so I just want to thank you, pat you on the back for what God's done and bringing that. Who has not heard of the AMBERAlerts now? So, man, that's a thing. That's awesome. So where are you calling us from? Where are you talking to us from? What? Talking
to you now from Columbus, Ohio. Okay. And when we created this AMBERAlert, we lived in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. But since that time, God has redirected our steps and has planted us firmly here in the great state of Columbus, in the great state of Ohio, city of Columbus.
Awesome, awesome. Let me try to get Charles here.
Okay.
Just trying to get my co-host, my faithful co-host, Charles Matthews. There he is. There he is. So we'll make sure he gets in on this awesome conversation that we're having. So, for all the guests that are just now joining, there he is. There's Charles.
There he is.
And now it's connecting the audio.
There we go.
There he is.
There we go. All right. All right.
We had you earlier, but we didn't have your voice. And so, you know, you can't shut a pastor up like that.
Right. You know?
They say, you're free. You're free.
I'm free. I'm free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
For all those that are kind of new to the show, Two Pastors and the Guest, I'm one of the pastors, and my brother, my friend, my best friend, my buddy, Charles Matthews Sr. Now, we got two Charleses, so we got to be careful about how I use those names. But Charles Matthews Sr., how you doing, my friend?
Man, bro, I'm blessed. And as I always say, it's a blessing to be in the land of the dying, working our way to the land of the living.
Listen to him. Listen to him.
Yes,
That's
Lord.
wonderful. That's wonderful, brother.
Yes.
Well, so I'm glad we got your microphone and everything working. I know
Oh yeah.
I'm calling from Memphis, Tennessee, and Charles is over in Mississippi somewhere.
Yes, yes.
Where you
South
at?
Florida, Mississippi.
There you go. And
Yeah.
then we got our founder of the AMBERAlert now, Charles Williams. He's calling us from Ohio, right?
Right, that is correct. Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
So what's it like
Right.
in Columbus, Ohio today? Here in Memphis, it was hot.
Somebody must be out there fanning the flames, okay? Because we had our hottest day of the year so far here today. I think it got up to about 92, 93 degrees or something thereabouts. But being a kid from Texas, 93, don't tell nobody. That's really not hot, okay?
That's not even worth breaking a sweat over, is it?
Yeah.
Really.
And it's something that y'all say that because now here in Mississippi today, it was nice and cool and mellow out there. But watch this. We got a few little sprinkles earlier today. We got some little rain, you know, but it stayed cool. You know, it stayed really, like right now out there, you know, and I think it's kind of mellow out there right now. But I mean, I say it's something how we're so close to Memphis, Tennessee, you know, but the weather can be so different, you know, at a little distance, you know. But like I said, but today here it's been kind of cool and mellow. It wasn't hot at all today.
Listen, I'll tell you just a little quick story as we prepare to go forward. I was in Memphis about 2 weeks ago. Okay, I came through Memphis. Yeah, I came through Memphis, and I saw the exit there that said I could go into Mississippi. Actually, I was in a little place called West Memphis, Arkansas.
Oh yeah,
And,
right across the bridge.
yeah. And you know where all that construction is? Okay.
Right.
I made it from Texas to West Memphis, Arkansas. It took me an hour to get through West Memphis, Arkansas.
Wow.
So where we were going, man, they had a bunch of construction and everything. I tried to think positive about Memphis, but by the time that construction lifted, all I wanted to do was get across that bridge.
Yes, well, we're welcome. I'm so grateful to have you, man. And next time you swing by through Memphis, you're going to have to give me a ring or something so we can hook up.
Absolutely.
I was going to say buy you some coffee. Are we allowed to do that still? I don't know.
But I don't know with all this social. No.
Yeah, you got to do it by appointment almost.
Yeah, basically.
Well, hopefully things are starting to get a little bit back to normal on that front. And well, so today, if you're new to the show, Two Pastors, Their Guests, Keeping It Real is all about having a real conversation, talking about that stuff that a lot of people want to maybe keep private or just kind of talk about it only amongst their friends. We're really trying to get some of that out so that we can see things from different points of view, talk about things that really need to be out and really need to be discussed.
Sure.
Right now, there's three of us, and we're all happen to be men. But there's three of us, and we don't see everything exactly from the same point of view. And we believe, kind of like what the Bible talks about with that iron sharpening iron thing, is we need to look at things from other people's angles sometimes and hear things so that we can grow. Otherwise, we don't grow. We don't learn anything. I'll just stay in my little cocoon in my little world. But we're also going to talk to you guys today about something very, very, very dear and very important, which is, of course, about children. Of course, about missing children, of course, about Amber Alerts. And then we'll just kind of see where the conversation takes us. So we also are on Facebook and all those Instagrams, all that kind of stuff. So you guys are welcome to sneak over, make sure you like the page, but type in a question or comment. And if we can fit it in the show, we will make sure we get to ask Pastor Charles Williams directly a question. And I want to thank Kay for joining in already. So she's always on the spot, and she's really, really great with that. So let's get started. So AMBERAlert founder, can you explain how in the world did that happen? I mean, that's not something anybody have ever seen on someone else's resume. So
that is,
tell me how did that happen?
That was truly all God. Okay, it truly was. Back on January 15th, 1996 is the date, and I was at work. I went to work as I normally do. I was a clerk at a fabric warehouse, a shipping clerk I was, and when I went to work on that Monday. I love talk radio. I love talk radio. And I was listening to my favorite talk radio station, and they were talking about this little girl that had been kidnapped on Saturday, a couple of days prior. And it just seems like that, the police chief, D. Anderson, who was there at the time, they were just lamenting as to, it just seems like this little girl just vanished off the face of the earth. And they were out of clues, and they were just there, talking about the case on the news. The talk show started at 9, and they were like, the news just kind of went up to the beginning of the talk show. And so as they were just kind of talking about this case, the Holy Ghost in me shared with me he gave me this concept, and he said, call them and tell them, just like when a tornado is coming through the area, they will interrupt all your football games. Remember, this is in January now. They would interrupt all of your football games and everything, and let you all know the direction and the path of this storm. And he said, just like they do that for the weather. He said, suggest to them that whenever a child goes missing, that they use that same concept. They use that same medium to break into radio stations and TV stations and smartphones. At that time, it wasn't smartphones; it was flip phones. To get that information out. And so as we did that, I said, well, okay, I'll find out if this is God or not. I believe in it. I said, but I'll find out if this is God or not. Have you ever tried to call a talk show and you know what happens? You call the talk show, they'll put you on hold, and you'll be number 26. You'll be number 26 or whatever, or the line is busy. And so at 9 o'clock, top of the hour, I called, and as fate would have it, or as God would have it, my call got straight through to the host and the police chief spokesperson at the time. Call got straight through to them, and I was able to share with them. I said, hey, Mark, what would happen if we use that same concept, like the weather channel, like the weather stations do? What would happen if we use that same concept to find children? I said it would put all eyes and ears in the community on looking for that one particular child. We're not trying to find 50 children at one time, but that one particular child. And he said, that sounds so simple. D. Anderson commented, he said, Charles, that sounds so simple. He said, so let's just try this now. Let's just everybody just start looking around. So that was the initial first trial of it. Now, I took a big chance in making that phone call, because remember I told you that I was at work. And if you know anything at all about being employed, there is a strict phone policy. There are no phone calls no personal phone calls on business time. And so, but this thing was just so churning inside of me. I had to pick up that phone, and God actually validated it by allowing the call to get through. My supervisor, who was listening to the call, I thought for sure he was going to come around and tell me to, listen, clean out your desk, okay, and and so forth. But he told me, he said, Charles, he said, you come up with some pretty bonehead ideas in the past. He said, but that's a pretty good one. And so his name is Glenn Duncan, may he rest right now. But he came around and he talked to me about it. And I took a real chance, because others in the plant were listening to the call as well. And it was quite interesting. So I was really nervous the rest of the day. I didn't know if they were going to fire me at that moment, or if they were going to wait until the end of the day and say, Charles, we need to talk to you. But they did not. I called my wife during my lunch hour. I called her and I told my wife what I did and what had happened. And I was like, well, baby, I really don't know how this is going to go, because I might be coming home without a job this afternoon. I just don't know. But here's what had happened. The seed for the AMBERAlert concept had just been deposited in the earth, okay? And later on, you will find, and a lot of people do Google searches and all that. Later on, they'll find to where that police chief, D. Anderson, later took the information from that call, and he took it and shared it with the Dallas-Fort Worth broadcasters. Okay, they had a meeting about a week later, and he shared that ideal with the Dallas-Fort Worth area broadcasters, and they all agreed to put aside their ratings and everything for the sake of a child, so that when a child goes missing, all media comes together with the hopes of finding the one child. And so, and then it just kept snowballing from there. After I placed the call, I left it alone, Brian. I didn't sit on it like a mother hen, okay? I left it alone. And it wasn't until like months later, some people were reaching out to me to say, hey, Charles, you need to call. Because remember, we were on the air live, okay? Witnessed by thousands of people. And some people were telling me, hey, you need to get in touch with some people because they're trying to find you. Well, listen, Brian, as a black man in the South, when somebody tells you that somebody is looking for you and you ain't always done everything right, okay? You ain't always done everything right, okay? That's one more reason to keep running faster the other way, okay? but I learned while they were looking for me, okay? And when we got back in touch with each other, the host said, Mark Davis, he said, man, I remember you like it was yesterday. He said, because if you listen to me talk, I don't talk like a Southerner with a Southern drawl. There is a distinct accent to my voice, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And so he said that when we all got back together, he said, man, where in the world have you been? I said, well, I just been hanging and chilling. He said, that ideal that you shared on that day has caught on, and wow. it is now, it's been used as the AMBERAlert concept, and God has just caused it to go to levels that I could have never even dreamed of. I can't go on vacation, drive down a highway without seeing a message sign. I try to take my kids on vacation, and they're like, Daddy, the message sign is lighting up again. And there's just so much. And I am humble. I am grateful. And, we talk about the success and all of that about the AMBERAlert, but, I'm a very humble preacher. Okay. I'm a preacher first and a founder second. Okay. And I'm just a little guy who likes to tinker and work on 22-year-old cars.
Well, I tell you, it's so neat that God knew who he was picking. He knew who to give that mantle to, who to give the idea to, because he knew how that would play out. And I love the fact that you're so humble, because you allow that to have worked the way God intended it, rather than, and I know if he had given it to me, I'd probably steamroll through it and try to do a whole lot to push it along. But what he did with you was so smart, because he let you do it, like you said, planted it like a seed, and you kind of watched it, had time to grow, but it also grew without you having to force something to happen. Man, that's beautiful. And it works, brother. I'm telling you, it works.
And Brian, Pastor Brian, let me inject this right there as well. Yeah. Because if you stop and you think about it, and we're talking about keeping all things real here. If Absolutely. You stop and you think about this, okay, as a black man, okay, as a black man in the South, how many doors do you believe would have been opened up to me if I had to go and knock on a door and say, hey, I got an ideal. Hey, I got an ideal. You know what? We would not have that Amber Alert today. But because of doing it the way God did it, okay, was that he just allowed me to deposit a seed. Watch this. And then he took others who don't look like me, okay, who had power and who had influence, okay, to help push it along. Now, there can only one person can come up with an ideal, but there can be many people that can help push it along, okay?
Yeah,
and so that's a God thing to me, man.
Oh, it absolutely is. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited about how it came about. How long ago was that?
This is the 24th year. That happened 24 years ago. Next year will be our 25th, and we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary of it. But yeah, 24 years ago. You can look at it this way. 24 years ago in January, I almost lost my job. But instead of losing my job, the world gained the Amber Alert.
Well, I'm so thankful that you had that you took a little thing that God gave you and put it on your heart, but then you did have to act on it. So I'll give God all the credit for making it grow and that kind of stuff. But you were the planter. You were the guy that was planting the seed, and that means that you had to take an action. And even at the time, it was a bold action because you were risking your job. To do something. So I do want to thank you for being a brother who's a great worker out in the field, man, because that was a good move that you did, even though it was a little tough. And look what it's blown up to be. So let me show you guys something real quick. Charles, would you mind if I show your Facebook page?
No, go right ahead. Go ahead. Sure.
So guys, let me show you about something. So I hopped on Charles Williams' Facebook page, and so you can, if you put in Charles Williams or Amber Alert founder, you will find obviously his page. And I'll tell you how cool this is. I got this just today. So today I haven't been on Facebook much, but I saw that we had an Amber Alert out today. And let me see if I can find out where it started. When I found out about it, it was about an hour ago before, about 2 hours ago, about now. And so we had right here, we had a Amber Alert of a child that went missing, a 3-month-old little girl, y'all. Yeah. And in just the time I picked up the phone and I was talking with Brother Charles on this, just that time she was located. Yep. She was identified. Just that time. That's how it works. And I think the picture means everything. Is that pretty much it? Is the picture is a lot of times the thing?
It is the picture, Pastor Brian, and watch this. It is the picture and the prayer that goes along with this. Okay? Because watch this. Watch this. I am blessed with a wonderful prayer covering, and that's one of a lot of things a lot of people don't know about the Amber Alert or the Amber Alert founder. I mean, it is undergirded in prayer, okay? And whenever a child goes missing, I'll share it on my Facebook pages, but also people like Deborah Faith Taylor and others from around the country, prayer warriors. I mean, once we get that information out there, it doesn't just go to the community. It first, and that's really our first line of defense. It first goes to a number of prayer warrior and prayer intercessors. And wow. a lot of people often wonder, why is it that the Amber Alert, enjoys the success rate that it does? Well, the undergirding of it is prayer. And so, really, when you think about it, and I've shared this many times, that a lot of people say, well, where did you come up with this ideal from, and so forth? Well, I've always been a person of prayer all my life, all of my Christian life, okay? Now, I ain't been saved all the time, but all my Christian life, I've been a person of prayer. And here's what happened. I was reading the scripture, and one of the scriptures that came to mind was when Jesus, Jesus's mother and father, they were leaving the temple, and they had Jesus with them. Okay, and then Jesus and then Jesus disappears from them. Okay.
Yeah.
He becomes lost. He becomes lost. And according to the mother, if you ask Mary, Jesus was lost. If you ask Joseph, Joseph probably heard from Mary and said, "You better get out this car and go find that boy." Okay, and so that really is another underlying current as to a biblical foundation by which the Amber Alert is saturated in and based upon.
I could not, sometimes on the show, guys, we talk in a spiritual context, and sometimes we talk in more of a, practical, let's call it.
Sure.
But in this case, I absolutely 100% agree with you that the fact that you surrounded all this in prayer, and God was the inspiration behind it and the motivation, and he's the one that helped it to grow. But then you backed it with a bunch of prayer. That every time one of those kids go missing, it's immediately, when a child goes missing, you already have a bad guy in the picture, right? We already have an evil thing that's there most of the time. And to fight that just without the spiritual context, it is noble and great. But to fight that with the physical stuff and the spiritual side is the reason it's probably as successful as it is, right?
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, guys, and so I got a couple questions about the Amber Alert. So
sure.
What Charles and I do, we work in might as well do our charity shout out real quick. Is that a good timing, Charles? So let's do our charity shout out just real quickly. So let me go to Saving Lost Kids. So our charity that Charles and I support and promote and push and work in is called, there it is, Saving Lost Kids. So Saving Lost Kids, it's missing, exploited, and sex trafficking of children. And our goal is to try to prevent it from happening on the front end. There are also groups that Charles and I work with that do things after the fact, after the child goes missing and exploited. But in prevention, we found out that a lot of things are preventable. Actually, around 90% of it, when most children go missing, is a preventable measure. So if we can teach some of those dangers, teach some of that awareness, teach some of that education and what to do when you get into trouble, and so that the children know what to look out for, and then the adults know what red flags to look out for, then we can make a huge, huge impact and make a big difference to that. So that's SavingLostKids.org, SavingLostKids.org. We also have a Facebook page, Saving Lost Kids. If you'd like to make a donation to that, feel free. We'd love to have you. Donations are how we're able to do as many events and so much education and stuff as we do. And just text SLK for Saving Lost Kids, SLK to 41444, or check out the webpage. And we'd love to have your support and have you a member and a partner with us in this effort to try to save kids. But welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Brian Callies, with Brian Callies Ministries. Name of the show, of course, is Two Pastors, their guests, keeping it real. Got my awesome friend, best friend, brother, co-host, Pastor Charles Matthews with us. And we are interviewing today. We're having an awesome guest, guys. This is amazing. We got the founder of the Amber Alert, Pastor Charles Williams, the founder of Amber Alert. So remember, go to the website of Two Pastors and a Guest, and you can put in your comments. We have several people that joined us: David Sitton, Brad Bosey, Janice Shapley, Kay Wall. We got, well, a shout out to everybody who's joining us right now. But if you have any questions or comments directly, make sure you put them in, and we'll try to get them on the show. So we were talking about how the Amber Alert now started about 24 years ago, and how it's been successful, and how it's now been successful in the sense because there's got two angles to it. It's not just a practical side of getting it out there, but you also support that with a huge prayer side as well.
Absolutely.
And combined, that's one of the reasons it's so beautiful and so successful. In fact, we saw today that there was an Amber Alert put out for a young girl, and she was recovered within hours. So, man, praise to God.
Pastor Brian, it is so, one of the things that blesses me so much about the Amber Alert is a lot of people, put focus on me and so forth. And that's, you know, be that as it may. But the thing that blesses me the most is that when I see, and I have personally put children back into the hands of their parents, okay?
Wow.
But when I see people who are, I mean, who were just totally out of their wits about their child missing, and then we're able to return their child back to them, the first thing that 98% of those people say is, thank God my child was found.
Amen.
And you know, that's what really blesses me, because you could, you know, peel back another layer and said, you know, it's a witnessing tool. When I hear people who have no God affiliation at all get their child back, and now they're talking, now they are God conscious, okay? You know, that really blesses me. It
I like
really
that.
does.
Now they're God conscious is what you said.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah.
When they get to see God do some of the great things he does, that might be what they need to help get that connection. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a couple quick questions now so people come up to us and Charles and I and our team a lot of times for some questions like, all right, so what constitutes an Amber Alert? Is there a national organization that says, okay, yeah, this deems worthy enough to be an Amber Alert? Or is it based on states, or is it based on who does this?
I'm glad it's not me.
So they're all calling you every day going,
Yeah, okay. Here we go. No, the long and short of that. You've heard of the term states' rights, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Each state has their own. They have their own criteria. Now, that being said, there is a core. There is a core of what's the word I'm trying to think of? There is a core that must be adhered to. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a core, you know, there's certain things like, okay, do they believe that the child is in imminent danger? Was there a car? Was there a confirmed abduction? Was there a suspect? Those things, those are the core things that must be in place. But then there are states, each state has the right to modify that, okay, or to make an addition to it, such as you're there in Tennessee. If you just drive 30 miles to the west, you're in Arkansas. Arkansas does not have, quote, Amber Alert. Arkansas has the Morgan Nick Amber Alert, okay? That's what it is called in Arkansas. So each state has the right to name the concept. Now, the concept is the same, but each state has the right to name the concept after a child that is near and dear to them in their state. In Georgia, they don't have the Amber Alert either. They have what is called Levi's Call, which is Georgia's version of the Amber Alert. So, each state, like such as there in Tennessee, you would get with the TBI, okay? The TBI typically is the issuing agency. The local law enforcement would share that information with the TBI. TBI then would take and would put it out as a statewide, okay? If they had reason to believe that the person may be fleeing the state, then we'll go, you know, multi-statewide or even nationwide. So it depends, but it typically starts out first with the local agencies and local police jurisdictions. They do have the right to do it locally, but when it needs to go beyond those borders, you get with, like, such as in Tennessee, you get with the TBI and others, and it just begins to expand.
Oh, I see. Well, that makes sense. A lot of people were asking, you know, why isn't every missing child, like, for example, I know right now, Memphis, Tennessee, and it's just not because it's Memphis, it's just because it's an average for this size city. We, at any time, have maybe 8, 12 kids on the books that are missing right away at that time. And And so somebody asked me, why isn't every child being put on the Amber Alert?
That's a great question, Brian. And I am hit with that a lot of times. Sometimes I am slammed. With that, because the truth of the matter is, not every child receives an Amber Alert. And there have been people who have slammed me and slammed the Amber Alert, and they're protesting and calling for changes to the Amber Alert and all that. But here's the rub of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Not every child receives an Amber Alert, number one, because they don't meet the criteria. The Amber Alert has a very strict criteria. Like I stated before, authorities must believe that that the child is in imminent harm's way or danger, or there was a confirmed abduction, or somebody saw something, a car or tag. There are a number of reasons why some kids receive it and some don't. But I think the most valuable reason, and that people need to know this, and I'm beating this drum trying to educate people all the time, is that when your child goes missing, what you tell the authorities, when that first officer that shows up, what you tell them can make the difference between your child receiving an Amber Alert or them looking for your child as a missing child, okay? If you are instrumental in telling the authorities that, hey, I believe my child was abducted, every police officer in this nation, they would then begin to think, okay, is this an Amber Alert? Okay, let's go down our checklist and see if this is an Amber Alert. But if a parent tells authorities that my child is missing, okay, they're not going to look at it as an Amber Alert thing. They're going to look at it as a missing child case, and they're going to treat it like a missing child's case. Well, I try to tell people all the time, listen, if you believe that your child has been abducted, the main thing I would tell people, hey, I believe my child was abducted. Now have law enforcement to prove to me that my child wasn't abducted and why my child doesn't meet the Amber Alert criteria. So many times, Pastor Brian and Pastor Charles, so many times, people will say, okay, this child didn't receive an Amber Alert because this child was black, and they try to play the race card and all of that and everything. And the truth be told, Amber Alerts are issued for more children of color than Caucasians. So that's really the truth of that.
Wow.
And so it's it literally is. It makes what you tell the officers when they show up at your door really sets the wheels in motion as to them either thinking about it as an Amber Alert or them thinking about it as a missing child. A lot of children who are ages, 15, 16, 17, they have the tendency to want to run off. They have the tendency to want to run away. And oftentimes, there have been a few times that we have been suckered into issuing Amber Alerts for children who did run away. Okay?
And that's actually what Charles and I have to focus on so much, is running away. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so we have, it's kind of like you take the good along with the bad. And, but again, the more information. Now, granted, watch this. A 2-year-old or 3-year-old that's missing, okay, you don't have to wonder if that child was abducted or anything. A 2 or 3-year-old, that's critical, okay? They can't be out here without whatever it is that they need. So initially, they are going to get an Amber Alert. But when you get into the age, Pastor Brian, of 13, 14, 15, you have to start thinking about, okay, is this a human trafficking issue? Is this a runaway issue? Or is there overwhelming evidence to support the issuing of an Amber Alert, such as with Jamie Kloss, Jamie Kloss 2 years ago in Wisconsin? Overwhelming evidence, that she was like, I think 15, 16, something like that. Yeah. And, overwhelming evidence. The house was broken into. The mother and father were shot and killed. Okay, that's overwhelming evidence that something sinister took place and an Amber Alert was issued for her thankfully she was found alive after missing for several months.
Wow. Yep. And again, Amber Alert testimony, keep it supported in prayer, but keep people actively looking. The Amber Alert is so important, right? Because you're trying to get that out so that the public can spot, see, recognize something. And that's what happens a lot, right? That's how it works.
That is so true. President George W. Bush stated it this way. He says, Amber Alerts put eyes and ears on every corner. The person, the suspect who has abducted the child, they don't know if the person is behind them, in the car in front of them, on the side of them, whethersoever. So it literally does. It puts eyes and ears, and from a safe distance, and particularly on social media. I tell people all the time, one of the greatest things that people who are retired or just available can do is join in groups like yours, okay? Join in groups like yours, and be supportive of groups like yours in helping to find these children. Because I'm telling you, just last year, we had a 16-year-old girl that went missing here out of Ohio, and the community got involved. Pastor Brian, I just want to encourage you, and Pastor Charles, you get out into the community, hold these candlelight vigils for these individuals. It's a ministry opportunity, okay, as well. Get out here, hold these candlelight vigils, meet these parents, and help find it. Well, with long and short of that, we ended up helping to find this little girl, and she was rolled up. Her abductors they were trying to transport her, Pastor Brian. She was rolled up in carpet, okay? She was rolled up in carpet and was being placed in a vehicle. Authorities were alerted to what it was because they had been watching this particular residence, and authorities became suspicious as to why they were changing carpet out and everything, and they found this 16-year-old girl rolled up inside of carpet. And she later, after she was found, weeks later, she came and she did an interview. It's on one of my pages there. She did an interview with us, letting us know, what it was that she had went through and everything. So wow. I'm telling you, the work that advocates do, and this is so important, and I want to share this with you, the work that child safety advocates, because if you just pause and think about this, okay? If you pause and you think about this, when a child is missing, and I've seen this far too many times, when a child is missing, the parent is their mind is not there, okay? Their mind is totally not there. They're frantic and everything. You got people, they'll put flyers out. The people put flyers out with their personal phone number on it, won't even mention the police department. And in this day and in this time, I try to tell people, listen, the best thing that a person can come in contact with when your child is missing is a child safety advocate. Because that as advocates, we're able to be there, we're able to hold their hand. We can think clearly when they are thinking frantically, okay?
Oh, wow.
And beautiful. We are the ones who are able to say, well, okay, I'm gonna draft the flyer, I'm gonna draft a proper flyer for you, and so forth, and really help walk them through the process. Because so many times they'll put their personal phone numbers on flyers, and right now we're in a season where people who have nothing at all to do with the missing child will call a family and try to extort money from a family, and they have nothing at all to do. So this is why I share with advocates all across the country. Listen, one of the first things you should do in drafting a flyer is only put the police information, okay? Only supply the police information, phone number on that flyer, okay? Because we don't want other problems to develop, while we're trying to find this child.
Man, I love that. I love it, love it, love it. And actually, love to get together with you a little bit more as well as Charles and I and Saving Lost Kids and all that stuff grows, and maybe get some more advocates to connect to the way it's done properly like that, and to do things a little bit smarter. That's wonderful. Charles, it feels like I have so many questions, and I'm so excited about this that I might be monopolizing a thing. I don't mean to not have you asking questions, brother. You feel free to jump in, man.
Got me muted.
Oh, I muted him?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, I don't want to do that. Can't mute Mr. Charles. So go ahead, brother. You got any questions yet?
He's muted again.
Still muted.
Yeah.
We hear you. You're good.
You hear me?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, man, it is great. Like I say, with what Mr. Charles said, it's something that even the ideal and the thoughts sometimes that some other people probably normally have but don't put into action, he decided to say to them, to this radio station, why don't we try it this way? And it wasn't nothing but God, because a lot of times, listen, folks, your idea don't mean nothing to people a lot of times. Even things like that, they don't really mean nothing a lot of times. They're great ideas, and normally most folks, they definitely want the credit. Yeah. But I admire him because he said, "But to God be all of the credit and the glory." It ain't nothing. I just came up with the idea and I just gave them that idea, but it ain't nothing about me. It's still about God. And he said, what really works is the fact of that the pictures put out there with the AMBERAlert, but most importantly, prayer of the people that trust and believe in God. And it makes all the difference to know when you got people that's that's praying. Prayer makes the difference. I always say that old song says, if it come through by prayer, then I declare prayer change things. And it really does. It get us things that a lot of other things don't get us. And I'm glad that he said that, and that he's a bold soldier to let people know that it was all about God. It kind of remind me real quick of the woman, with the issue of blood for 12 long years. And I can imagine probably from hearing that, I'm thinking, well, maybe she didn't know nothing about Jesus or didn't believe in him or something, had to be a problem. But what happened was that because she had she went to all the doctors and spent all her money and, and the Bible says she didn't get no better, but yet she grew worse. And the Bible said, but watch it. But then she heard that Jesus was going to be passing through. Yep. And so what happened was that, and I said that part because what happened was that when Mr. Charles said, it overjoys my heart when we got people that I know that wasn't believers. They was unbelievers. They didn't even believe in Jesus Christ. They were immoral people, but now they have said, man, thank God I got my child back. And they look toward the fact of, man, I think I might want to get to know more about this person, this man, this Jesus, this God.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about.
Yep.
Amen. Amen.
So thank you so much for God giving you that. And the most important part about thank you for your obedience to allowing God to speak through you, and you was the mouthpiece, and you didn't stop there. Because how a lot of times we get something be like, in our spirit, we get something, and then watch what we'll say. We'll say, yeah, well, some told me to say something, but I just didn't. We know it's God. Because some just don't tell you to say something. Some don't even know what to say.
That's right.
But some told me to say something, but I didn't. But yet, when you recognize that it was God speaking to you, especially for the situation that was at hand, and one of God's children, abducted, and you said, Lord, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be obedient to what you told me to do. And I'm going to call this radio station, and I'm going to give them what you told me to give them, the way you told me to give it to them. And thank God for you and for that. And I always say, and I say this because Brian and I both know, and I love the word of God, and I'm a firm believer in the word of God, and especially with an obedient spirit, because he said our obedience is better than our sacrifice, Right. And I just want to say, the Bible said that we should give credit to whom credit is due. And although you say, look, man, it wasn't nothing about me, but the Bible said give credit to whom credit is due. And I and Brian, we just want to say to you man, thank God. Then we'll put it this way, because this is the way it should be. Thank God for you and your obedience.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Charles. Thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm just humbled. I'm just humbled, and I am so humbled to where, like I stated before, my wife, she can tell me to, I may be AMBERAlert founder, but honey, the grass needs to be cut. Okay. I am so I'm so humble to where, honey, if my wife is too tired to lift the clothes from the dirty clothes hamper, honey, go do that. Okay. So
yes.
I enjoy, and can I just share one other little thing with you? And just real quick.
Yeah, you can share away, bro.
One of the things that, when you have given birth to something, God knows this. And a lot of times, there are sometimes, every time a child goes missing and it comes across my desk and everything, I talk with police agencies across this country. I do. And but there are sometimes children go missing, and before it has even gotten to me in writing, God wakes me up in the dead of night. Mm-hmm. and he'll just trouble my spirit. I'm like, what is going on? I'll open up my tablet and I'm like, boom, there it is right there. Okay, and there is that almost like a motherly or maternal instinct that God has put inside of me. It's like a mother that has a child. She knows when something is abnormal about that child. It's a motherly instinct. It is the same way in the spirit. And he who has an ear, let him hear what I'm saying in the spirit. It has that same motherly instinct that when a child goes missing, before it hits the national boards, or before I'm even contacted even by phone, the Lord has already got me up and in position and starting to do things and stuff like that. So I am just thankful. I am thankful, and I am grateful to God. I am grateful to God. And that's all. That's it.
Brother,
Pastor Brian, thank you.
I love you
so very much.
So
Pastor
much
Charles, bless you.
Everything that God's doing. And we got about 5 minutes left on the show, and I do want to make sure we hit a couple comments there and a couple questions that we have. And let's see. So a good question from Mona. She says, I don't understand that because no, let me start that again. I don't understand that because we have so many missing children, what harm does it cause to issue an AMBERAlert for every missing abducted child? Why not do that since we have so many, I think is what she's trying to say, and I butchered it up.
Mona, that is a great question, and we have been asked that by a number of people. The way in which I would have to share with you concerning that is that if we issued the AMBERAlert for every missing child, okay, it would lose its effectiveness. That's why the criteria for an AMBERAlert to be issued for a specific case, it must meet the strict criteria, and it is the same criteria that was present at the time that was present 24 years ago when I made the call. Okay, that criteria must be met, and if a missing child's case does not fit into that criteria, then an AMBERAlert will not be issued. But the fact that there are thousands of missing children, okay, even as we sit here right now, there are thousands of missing children out there. And there would be an AMBERAlert there'd be an AMBERAlert every day, and it would lose its effectiveness. So it is reserved for the most serious abductions that take place. Now, what I would share with her in the remaining moments that we have is that that's why people like Pastor Brian Callies and Pastor Charles Matthews and the work that they are doing as child safety advocates, okay? This is why it is important for people to align themselves with the child safety advocates in your area, okay? Because they are the ones, they are able to step in and to do and to hold the family's hands that do not receive an Amber Alert.
Yep. And I couldn't agree with you more. Charles and I, we do about 150 events a year, roughly, going around to different events. And what we do at our events a lot of times is we have a couple of television screens now, and we're just showing you the missing children from your location. The odds are maybe they'll still be in your location, and or you'll recognize them or something. And just that, you know, we're pushing sometimes 12. These are just the ones that have been missing the last few months, you know, and we got 12. You know, you're not going to remember 12, but you're going to at least see those. And that's just in our little community. So I will pat you on the back on that, Charles Williams, to say how important it is to look into your local area, because honestly, Amber Alert is so cool because the child is in immediate danger. There's a higher sense of alert of, we got to get all eyes on board on this. And then even then, it's still done this state, and then sometimes it grows to a multi-state, but you're still thinking about it locally, at least first, as a first step. So we'll agree with you, because if we showed you, in other words, go hop on to NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, go hop on there and see how many children there are. We can't show you all that at one time. Right. You're talking thousands of kids. You won't sit and watch it, number one, and number two, you won't recognize that child when you just went through a flash book of 1,000 pictures. You're just not going to ever remember that. But to do the most urgent is what he's going for. And I think I totally agree with you. I see your logic.
You know, Pastor Charles Matthews is in Mississippi right now. You know, one of the cases that still keeps me up at night, Pastor Charles Matthews, is the case of Myra Lewis. Out of Camden, Mississippi.
Right. We have been working, and we still work to this day, believing God for that case to be resolved. I met with her family and everything, and that sweet little girl just seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. But I have not given up on mine. I just haven't. And I know, Brian, quick question for him. And I know he said, and because they got certain criteria and stuff, Mr. Williams, that you have to go by, and even that's all I'm saying. But it like you were saying that, and we know that every case that's every child that's missing is not necessarily an abduction, but they are all in danger, though, right? Because even if they run away from home. Me and Brian, he teaches that all the time. Even if they run away from home, they're in danger because now they're in the eyesight, in the harm's way of the predator.
That's right.
So I guess I said to say, it's something to really think about, because although there are some that voluntarily run away, because Brian, what is the percentage normally? Our percentage of runaways normally that we have?
91, 92.
Right, you see, so the fact of the matter is that and hopefully this kind of helped too. With the question that Mona had asked, I'm pretty sure that's Mona. I'm hoping. I think it's probably my niece Mona. But anyway, but the fact of the matter is that like you say, if you put everybody up, like I said, it'll kind of, because it's like don't get me wrong, sometimes the little boy that cried wolf, So if you keep putting up people, and then you got to realize, it runs so far, and you got authorities. Watch this. They got to take out time looking for them. Watch this. That's a lot of not that it's about the money and none of that stuff. But that's a lot of money got to be spent. That if it wasn't an abduction, and it wasn't that severe and serious, then guess what? There's really, don't get me wrong, there's really money that's been really thought away that could have been put toward one that was really needed to be used for it. See, so you got to understand those things too, because, and so if you go and just do it on everybody, guess what? Then there's no money for the ones that really need it.
That's right. That is so true. And, Pastor Brian and Pastor Charles, one of the things that is not really talked about that is really happening every day as it relates to missing children, there's the people kind of put them into 3 categories. They put them in the category of either the AMBERAlert, they put them in the category of missing children,
Yep.
or watch this, the one that is not widely talked about, but we're finding that this happens far too many times that we don't talk about it, are the children, not that run away, but are the children that are lured
That's
away.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, they are lured
Amen.
away by and that's a conversation for a whole nother day, I'm sure. But
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you back on this thing
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Let me tell you about 2 things real quick that our viewers have said. Number one is Kay Wall said, if only one child in an area is found, it is wonderful for that family. It would be historic and amazing if we collect all missing children. And totally agree with you, Kay. Let's pray on that and see if we can get as many as we can get brought back in. And then one more quick thing that Deborah, I'll try not to use their whole name so that I'm not outing them. Deborah had asked, how can the church get involved?
that is a great question. The church, watch this. The church will be involved one way or the other.
Ooh.
Okay. The church, if the church chooses to turn and look the other way, somebody will come knocking on the church door wanting to hold a funeral, okay, for a little child. I would encourage, and this is something I've been talking about for a long time, churches, we have these multimedia things in our churches now. Most churches, such as the one that I attend, most churches, they'll have an early service and then they'll have a break and then they'll have a second service, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What would be wrong? And I feel like I'm releasing something here, but what would be the harm in churches highlighting in between services or after services, highlighting a missing child in their area, okay?
Wow.
They could put it up on their screen. Hey, this is Myra Lewis missing from Camden, Mississippi. She's been missing some. If you have any information, call this number. That would only take a few seconds.
Yes.
It wouldn't cost the church a dime. It wouldn't be taking anything from a church, but it would allow the church to be seen as being engaged in what's going on in the community.
Wow.
A lot of churches do not have the multimedia, things and so forth. So then, okay, a lot of churches, if they don't have the multimedia, they do have bulletins, okay? And what would be the harm in, as you're putting together a bulletin, to put an insert inside of there, or on the back of the bulletin? You know, we talk about the dead people and everybody, and God bless them and so forth, but what about on the back of a bulletin? This child has been missing from our area. If you have any information, you know, it is something so subtle that could make a very good impact. And it also shows the community that this church is engaged in what's going on in the community. That's a great question.
Yes, and great, Brian. You know what? And like I said, it is great. And watch this. Even with that being said, Brian, you know, it's a great thing, especially with you and I, because, you know, we work with a lot of churches and even our churches. And then we got PCCNA, CDN, and the way we spread the word, that'll be something great to really take back and present to CDN, PCCNA, our church, other churches, because watch this. Every Sunday, mention what Mr. Williams just said, every Sunday, every church have a program for the morning service or whatever service they have. And man, that's something great to present to all pastors.
Brother, I am so excited about that. Again, God gave you another idea and another vision. And I think it's found some fertile soil with Charles and I, because we can help facilitate that.
Yes.
And so that we could maybe even help the churches, so that we know this 10 children and these are the ones that are most critical, and we can hand out to that. That would be something we would love to get involved in. Brilliant, brother. I want to thank you. And I'm going to give you a big, you know, I guess it's a Zoom hug, but I'm just going to, brother, that was big. Yeah, look at you. Look at the man.
There you go.
See, I like him even more now. So
look, I ain't break my cowboy hat out.
Well, Pastor Charles, man, I am so honored. I'm so humbled that you got to join us on the show. I want to thank you so much for coming. We're going to have you back on again, hopefully very soon, because we just, again, as we always do, we just scrape the surface of things. And I'll let you say one more quick little word about the situations that we're seeing ourselves in today. Can you give us one more thing, just one thing that's on your heart? It could be about anything you want.
Me or Pastor Matthews?
Pastor Williams.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, one thing that I would encourage everyone, as an advocate, know your value. Know your value as a child safety advocate, okay? Your value, it's you. When people cannot reach me, it's you that they will need to call. It's like save SLC, is it? Saving your program. It's programs like that really, okay, that you go to first as an advocate. And like I have advocates all over this country. If it becomes too much for the advocate, or the advocate is working on a case that says, Pastor Williams, I think you need to take a look at this, then that advocate has an avenue to me, and then we will take and do whatever we need to do, push buttons or whatever we need to do to get more exposure on it. But the first line of defense are people like Pastor Brian Callies and Pastor Charles Matthews, the foundation that they have. Everybody listen to me. They are absolutely, truly worthy of any and all support that you can give to them, because the work that they do as a child safety advocate, I mean, you can't put a price on that.
Amen.
Brother, I thank you, love you, and I'm so thankful God put all this in your heart, and the impact that it's been able to do. I want to thank you for coming on the show. You guys have been watching two pastors, their guests, keeping it real, and that's exactly what we've done today. We've had just one-of-a-kind, amazing guest on today, the founder of the AMBERAlert, Pastor Charles Williams. If you guys need to get in touch with him, remember, he's got Facebook pages. He's got all kinds of things. Probably the best way is to look up Charles Williams. That's the best way to get in touch.
Yep. Best way to get in touch. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, AMBERalertfounder.com. I mean, listen, we're there. We're out there, and awesome. Hey, I want to make mention of one last thing, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I can, I wanted to do this.
You're going to do a share?
There's so much more information that I wanted to share, and time will not allow us to share that information right now. But this is a copy of my book, okay? I go through it from A to Z as to how we started, what we're doing now, and how we got there. You know, one of the funniest things is that this picture of me and President George W. Bush, I'm so simple and so humble. I had an old Toyota van that leaked oil and leaking gas all at the same time, and got a call from the Secret Service and said, President Bush wants to meet with you. Well, he said, okay. And people, most people would have just said, hey, look, you're going to go meet with the president, go get a rental car and everything. I said, no, I'm going to drive my leaking oil and leaking water car to go meet with the president. If it leaks oil, it'll just leak oil at the place where we're going to meet at. And so I'm just humble like that. And when we met with the president, he was like, Charles, what are you doing up here in Ohio? And we were talking and everything, and we just went on. But the long and short of it is this: no matter where God carries you,
yes,
no matter where God carries you, always be yourself.
All right.
Always be
right to
yourself.
me, don't you?
Listen, if when the president calls and you're driving a car that leaks oil, and a car that you have to stop and keep, you know what I'm talking about. You have to keep extra water in the back of the car.
I got one of those.
Okay, I had to. That's what I drove when I went to go meet the president. I didn't let it change me. I did not let it change me at all. So I want to encourage everybody. Listen, wherever God carries you, always be yourself, because that's what people are looking at, and they want to see. God gave you this. God gave you this concept, but you haven't let it. You haven't let it swell your head. Okay.
Yeah.
The same person. And so thank you, Brian, man.
Well, that spoke right to me, brother. Thank you.
Stay humble. In other words, stay humble.
That's stay humble. You took the words right out of my mouth.
That spoke right to me. So thank you so very much, man. I love it. I love you're on the show. Thank you for being so honest and real. And now we're going to change our timing up a little bit this week, guys. So our live shows are going to be twice a week. We're going to be on, we're on tonight, and then we're going to be on again either Thursday or Friday. We're shooting for Friday, so as we work it out. But during the week, don't worry, we're going to take all these kind of clips and all these pieces from some of the shows that we've had. We're on episode 36 right now, praise God. We're at episode 36.
Amen.
What we want to do is take a quick moment to kind of go back and do some highlights from the most important stuff that we've been in that 36, so that nobody misses some of that important stuff. So we're going to go ahead and put that out. It'll be still live, so you catch us at 7 o'clock tomorrow, and you'll see some things that we as we put them out throughout the week as well. So feel free to stay connected and stay tuned. We will see you live. It's either going to be Thursday night or Friday night, and we'll stay just keep online, and we'll know for sure. And bless you, and we will see you then.
Yes. God bless you. Amen.
Bless you, buddy.
Amen.
God bless you.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now. Set aside your worries, it's okay now. The sun is here to stay. Blue skies, feel the wind beneath you as you fly by. Dancing on a cloud, it lifts you high, high, high. Your troubles